Hey, what's up guys? This video is about the Spyderco stretch model. I do have a dedicated in-use video for the regular one, and I'm gonna do one for the large one that just focuses on each knife individually. Also have a comparison video of the regular stretch between the PM2 and Manix. And in this video I want to talk about the comparison between the regular and the XL, and also gonna talk about the benefits of this design and also the drawbacks about the stretch model overall. So let's start with what the stretch is. Many people would see the stretch as a improved version of a PM2. So if you take a PM2, you hold it up next to the stretch, you can see that it has more belly in the cutting edge, and you have a thinner blade stock. Therefore you also have a thinner grind geometry, and you have a better steel. So the PM2 is really nice for cutting man-made abrasive materials, and the stretch has the edge toughness to not just cut man-made abrasive materials because of the high edge retention in K390, but it also can do harder cutting like wood, or cutting roots, for instance, in the dirt. It's a harder use knife overall. And the handle supports that because it's a more ergonomic handle than the PM2. Where the PM2 has its benefits over the stretch though, or its advantages I should say, is in the build quality. So the PM2 build quality is just a lot higher than in the stretch. But there's also price difference. So with the stretch you will get a little bit of blade play. Some knives will not be perfectly centered, although mine is. And the cutting edges might not be totally symmetrical. So yeah, that's what you get with a stretch and also don't get with a stretch. Is the build quality higher in the XL version? I do think so. In the action, I think there is a step up in terms of action. You also get that more premium feel with the polished stainless steel backspacer. It feels overall a little bit classier and nicer than the regular stretch model. However, you also do have a little bit of blade play in the pivot in the XL version, and you only have T6s and the T8 on the pivot. So for the price point that the XL sits in, I would like to see T8 body screws, to be honest. So that's one drawback of the stretch design here. Yeah, let's speak about price right away. The regular one is about 130 and 160 depending on the time of the year that you buy these, and then the XL is about 200 to 300 euros currently. So therefore the small version is just a lot easier to recommend in my opinion, because it's like an entry-level Spyderco for, not because of the price, there are probably cheaper Spydercos, but like for price to performance ratio, I think the regular stretch is an entry-level Spyderco, and the XL crewwear version is sort of an upgraded for the Spyderco enjoyer, Spyderco long-term collector knife. So with K390 and crewwear you get very, very strong steels. So both of these are high in edge retention, so good for man-made abrasive stuff, but also relatively good in edge stability. So they're also very tough at the edge. They don't chip very easily. Both are not corrosion resistant. I feel like that my K390 blades, they do tend to patina a lot quicker. So maybe crewwear is slightly more stainless, I guess. Or maybe I just carry my K390 knives a little bit more. So with K390 you will develop some patina and certain rust spots over time. So you can see I have a little bit of rust around the pivot area, so I have to take this apart and clean it. But yeah, I don't mind the patina, it's fine. So especially like salty stuff, if you sweat on it, or salt in food or in the air, will cause these steels to rust relatively easy, but it's not dramatic if you take care of it. So in terms of like performance, I think like K390 technically has a higher edge retention and crewwear has higher edge stability, but that's only technically. Practically I didn't find a difference in performance. I think both of these cut for a tremendous amount of time and have really good edge stability. Where I see a difference though, practically speaking, if you sharpen these, Kruber is much nicer to sharpen from blunt to razor sharp. So what I would recommend on both of these steels is to touch them up regularly, because you can bring a hair popping sharp edge back relatively easy and it's not a lot of effort. But resharpening both of these from blunt to dull is not as easy and is more for the advanced sharpener or more experienced sharpener, not for the beginner sharpener. So if you're a beginner in sharpening, you should touch these up regularly. Actually, everybody should touch these up regularly. I think that's just a better, more economic way of doing it. So yeah, that's about steel performance. Yeah, let's talk about the cutting performance. The regular stretch, as you can see, has quite a negative angle to a very pronounced belly section right here. So that means you will work most of the times with the belly, not with the tip, because you have to raise the tip really high up to cut with the tip. So this is a belly cutting knife. It really reminds me of those traditional knives in the past. You can see here a lot of designs in the past had these really aggressive angles towards really pronounced belly. And this is what the stretch basically is. It's a modern version, a modern interpretation of those blade shapes. And I do like that quite a bit because it's a very aggressive cutting blade shape. The XL version has a little bit more straight edge. It's not as dramatic towards that belly. It's not as it's not as dramatic. And sometimes that's nice because I think you can work with the tip a little bit nicer. You don't have to raise the entire knife as far. So that's one good thing. Another good thing is that the XL is much better suited for food cutting because you do have a relatively short cutting edge on the regular version. So the regular version has a 9 centimeter blade, which is 3.5 inches, but it only has a 3-inch cutting edge, which is like 7.8 centimeters. So very short cutting edge on the regular version. As a matter of fact, both the PM2 Manix and the Stretch, they all have a really short cutting edge for the size. You can see that if you hold it up next to other knives. One of my favorite Spydercos currently is the Leaf Jumper. And the Leaf Jumper basically has the same handle ergonomics length, but has and also has the same cutting edge length, but overall is a smaller knife because it leaves that choil away. So this knife makes a lot more sense, handle to blade ratio, and this one feels really short sometimes. You feel like you run out of room. You can see how dramatic short the cutting edge is on the Stretch, on the regular Stretch. If you hold it up next to this budget Spyderco, the Spyderco Astute, really good knife by the way. And you can see here that the cutting edge on the Astute is much longer, but overall this is a small knife. So the Stretch has a really off-balanced cutting edge length for overall length ratio. On the XL version it's not as dramatic, so the XL version has a 4-inch blade which is 10 centimeters. Actually, as I'm looking at it, it has 10.2 centimeters, so it's even over 4 inches. And the cutting edge length is 3.5 inches, which is 9 centimeters. So plenty of cutting edge length on the XL version. So for food cutting, I prefer the XL. The regular one is not great at that because it runs out of cutting edge really quickly. So I guess a very big competitor to both of these knives would be an Endura, for instance. The Endura has more cutting edge than the regular version, but is overall a lighter knife, and it has the same amount of cutting edge than the XL version, but again is a lighter design. Let's give you more size comparisons for the XL version. So the military also has more cutting edge. Overall it's about the same, a little bit longer. And the native is also approximately the same length overall, has a little bit less cutting edge because the Stretch has more curvature. So yeah, the overall profile in terms of carryability, I think it's okay. It's not the best knife. Like I said, the Endura has less weight, and I think also carries better by shape. What I don't like about the regular version is how high it sits in pocket. So for this one I would actually recommend the deep carry clip, because it's just really weird how it sits in pocket. It rides really high, the clip tension is not too strong. So this, especially like in thinner pants, the regular version tends to, like, it almost feels like it wants to slip out of the pocket, because yeah, the majority of knife, not the majority, but there's so much knife sticking out and not so much in the pocket. Whereas with the XL version, I think there's much more knife in the pocket. It's also a little bit heavier, so therefore I think it carries better in the pocket. That's just my opinion. So without the deep carry clip, I think the XL carries better, despite being a little bit heavier. So weight-wise, we have 129 grams on the XL, which is 4.5 ounces. And 106 grams or 3.6 ounces on the regular version. So like I said, there are Spyderco models that are much lighter for more cutting edge. So yeah, this is what it comes down to basically. The XL version is a more premium feel with the G10. By the way, the G10 is a plain canvas for your own color. So I do like the gray G10 that these Spydercos in Crewwear come with, because you can do so much with it. And it's a more premium feel, both in action and also with the backspacer, and it cuts food a lot nicer. And for regular tasks, the normal version is fine. I do actually like the ergonomics better on the regular, because there's more contouring going on. But I do always run out of cutting edge length, so this is one thing I really don't like about the regular one. So yeah, I guess for cutting I like the XL better, and for handling I like the regular better. So my ideal stretch would be a combination of both of these. It would be a lightweight XL version with liners, because the current lightweight model does not have liners, and I do not like that as much as the liner version. So yeah. To summarize, the stretch is a good Spyderco. It's definitely not the best Spyderco, and it's not my favorite Spyderco. It is a very good and easy to recommend Spyderco, especially the regular one, because of the price. Like I said, I just don't like the cutting edge length and the carryability for weight and clip positioning, and yeah, that's the drawback here. And on both of these I would like to see a little bit better build quality in terms of blade play, and I would like to see better screws on the XL version. So I think this one is slightly overpriced currently, but it is a good knife, and I do kind of like it more than the regular version for its cutting potential. But yeah, that's about it. Both of these are good knives, and they have their benefits and their drawbacks. With both of these you always feel like you bring a lot of cutting power to the table, because you get really nice steel performance and blade geometry performance. So yeah, that's it for this video. Thank you guys for watching, and maybe see each other in another video.